Welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast.
Anna, welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. How are you doing?
Hi, Danny. I'm doing awesome. Very excited to be chatting with you today.
Yes, me too. I'm looking forward to it. It's interesting. So I think I came across you via Butter, I think originally. And then since then you've got the shakers, which we might touch on a little bit later. But yeah, it's one I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a good geek out for sure. But I guess before we even get into that, I tend to ask my guests to summarize themselves in a logline, a sentence. What would your sentence be?
Hello, everyone. Do your guests start like this? No, I'm joking. My name is Anamaria. I love bringing people together. I love new things. I'm a doer, a starter, Romanian living in Amsterdam.
Okay. Wow. Okay, we're gonna needle into that in a second anyway. But yeah, I think we've been following each other for a while now. But maybe, the listeners, sorry, who will be listening to this at some point, maybe they've never come across you. So maybe give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of who you are,
Yes.
where you've been, and where you are right now.
Okay, cool. I live in Amsterdam, and I'm originally from Romania. Been living here for the past 5 years. And my career journey started in HR. I studied HR, I have a bachelor in psychology, and I've been having lots of fun as HR business partner for a retail brand, fast fashion. And it brought me from Romania to Germany, from Germany to Barcelona. And then eventually it was also kind of like my stepping stone or my exploration path into learning and development. L&D was always a big part of what an HR business partner does, and it was the part that I was enjoying most. And in my very last year there at that company, I got this opportunity to take an interim role and play around with L&D projects from A to Z. And I knew it back then that I'm not going to go back to HR, because why would I want to deal with all the hours and the grievances and the resignations and the dismissals and all that thing, where you can just talk about development and growth and the trainings and workshops and all the good stuff. So that's kind of how I tapped into this world of L&D. And I moved to Amsterdam and I started working as an L&D manager in a Dutch startup. I was the L&D department. It was me, myself, and I. It was really fun because my manager gave me free reign to do whatever. His line was always, I don't know, you're the expert. You're the one that's supposed to know how this is going to work. I have no idea. So then, yes, go ahead and do it. And that was awesome. But I think it was about 8 months in my role where I was starting to really think more and more often of like just wondering, how are other people doing L&D? It was still quite new to me. So I kept on thinking, how are they onboarding their people? And how are they building their leadership programs and tools they're using and whatnot? And that was the beginning of L&D Shakers, me going out into the world in good old LinkedIn and approaching other L&Ds in Amsterdam, inviting them to get together so we can share best practices and ideas, inspiration with one another. And that was my stepping stone into this world of community building. And I made that my profession 2 years and a couple of months ago when I joined the Butter team, and my role changed from L&D manager to community builder or head of community. And I've been building the Butter community from the ground up as well. Very fun project. And it's been now, I think, about almost 2 years since I started playing around with the whole idea of consulting, supporting, hosting workshops, working with different clients outside of Butter, outside of L&D Shakers, on topics of community building. Specifically internally, I'm really passionate about that, like companies nurturing communities within their company for their employees. and in general, social learning and cool learning experience design and stuff like that.
Nice. So we're going to get into all that good stuff a little bit later on. But there's something really interesting around just at the start. You talked around how you'd kind of Romania, I think you mentioned Germany, then Barcelona. Travel seems like it's a nice little adventure for you.
Yes.
Was that by design, or was that a case of it was just opportunity came?
Yeah. So the very first thing was very much by design, and then opportunity came, and I basically said yes to everything that my career threw at me. Promotions which came with relocations and all that good stuff. So I just said yes to everything. But so I grew up in Romania. I went to school there. I went to university there. I left the country with 25, and the first time I left the country, I left for Germany. It's still very high up the list of my dream countries. I love Germany. I speak German. I love Germans. It's awesome. And so I left initially for a 1-year internship. I worked in 2 different companies. In HR and learning as well, and then moved back to Romania briefly. And then someone someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a role for you." So my previous company reached out and said, "Hey, we have a role for you in Germany. Do you want to come back?" So I kind of left because the company I was working, just to make sure that it makes sense for folks. I worked in retail, fast fashion. And so I worked in this company as part-time during my studies. I started in a store, in a shopping mall in Romania. And I was going to school, and then I was going to work. And I left the company after I finished my studies, my master's, for the year internship, came back, started working as recruiter. And then the company, someone that knew me, reached out to me and said, "Hey, what have you been doing in the meantime since you left us and since you left the store? Because we know you had this HR background. We're looking for someone to lead the HR operations in our biggest store in Germany," which was about 95 people in the store. So that's kind of how I moved back into the company in an HR role this time. And that was, you could say, the first thing was by design, and then everything else was kind of like the company I was working for just rewarding my work with more work, with other types of work and roles. And so a regional position for HR came after. So I moved from the store and I took over all of the stores in Germany, HR business partner and operations. Then I stepped into an international HR business partner, moved to the headquarters in Spain and started traveling from there. So basically about 5 years of my life, I traveled every single week from Tuesday to Friday, except probably a month a year where we were in the office.
Wow.
Every single week, we were packing our bags on Tuesday morning after a day in the office with our team and spending time in the stores, visiting them, being with them, just like supporting, seeing the needs, the support, the help they need.
Wow. You mentioned you love Germany. Why? Tell me why you love Germany so much.
So I love Germany because I grew up learning German. So I grew up in the center of Romania, and it's a very culturally diverse region. Transylvania, we've got Germans and Hungarians that kind of fell in love with Romania from back then, when we were kind of under the Austro-Hungarian occupation. And then I had neighbors that were speaking German. So I started speaking German in kindergarten. Like one of our teachers, she was German descent, and then we were speaking Romanian and German. And so I grew up very attached to that part. But also, and this is a silly thing, I don't think I've ever mentioned this. It's funny how you pull out the good stories out of people, Danny, because I don't think anyone has asked me this, and very few people know this. So I grew up in a village in Romania, born in 86, post-communist, poor, in general, poor country, poor context, let's just say. So our mayor had a German descent, and he was having family and so many ties with a different village in Germany. And so every single, I think it was once or twice a year, the city in Germany was sending all these packages with just food and clothes and help to families in Romania. So every single family, or most of the families, got allocated a family. So you actually had a twin family in Germany. And our twin family, they had 2 kids. I have a younger sister, so we were 2 girls, but they were a girl and a guy, a boy. The boy was my age, the girl was my sister's age. So we grew up every year writing each other letters. We were sending each other pictures. We could see those kids growing up. They could see us growing up. And it was just, I have very strong memories of that box when it was arriving, and how everything was very different, from the clothes that were inside to the foods or the sweets and the smell. And like everything was just so, it lives on with me. So I think growing up like that, and that was for years, I think we were in high school when that stopped happening. Like I grew up waiting for that package to come for Christmas from them. If they're listening, because I'm like, I haven't been in touch with them. So if they're listening, it would be really cool to kind of reunite. And I think that really kind of made me place Germany and kind of imagine Germany as this land of a better life, I guess, or a different life, or a more settled life, or whatever. True story.
Well, it's fascinating, right? So I know we've both got a love for experience design, and
Yes.
and part of the reason why experience design works so well is because of the wait beforehand. It's the anticipation, the excitement. It's a build, and even with things like label illusion, what actually says put some tension in place and put a time restriction in place will build the anticipation up. And when you talk about that box, that's exactly what that is. It's fascinating. So let me ask you a question then. Thinking about boxes, let's pretend you've got this little treasure chest, okay? And in this treasure chest, you're allowed to put a memory in there, and you get to relive this memory every time you go in that chest. What memory would you put in there?
It's a tough one, Danny. Because now the more I think about the answer, the more memory ideas I have. I think I would put, there were many things that stuck with me. I'll just name the one that came to mind when you just asked me that.
Yeah.
And I think that was the door to something back then. So we were in high school, and I went to high school in a village in Romania, not a city, not a town, a village. We had a high school. And so I grew up there, and I went to high school, and I think we were about 10th or 11th grade. There was a national program in all the high schools in Romania where trainers were sent with a specific curricula for personal development. It was oriented towards working with the kids, with the students, to develop or explore their strengths and their passions, and kind of try to help them see what would they like to study next. So I recall those days very vividly. I recall the faces of those trainers. I recall activities that happened, because there were absolutely no chalk that was used to write something on the table. No slides. There was only colorful papers and pens and like kind of Play-Doh that all of these alternative learning methods that we weren't exposed to in school, where you were, sitting front looking at your teacher, and they would tell you stuff that you had to memorize and the recipe of success was to be able to kind of memorize those things and repeat it back when they were asking. That was the measure of success. And suddenly he was like, what do you think? And like, think about this, wish of yours, and like draw with using paper and cut stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like, what do you mean cut things? Like, what do you mean put my words into like Play-Doh? And so we spent 2 days with my colleagues with whom I basically grew up. And I've learned so much about them and about myself in those 2 days. And I remember back then I said, I didn't know what they were. Like, I didn't know they were trainers or like facilitators or what they were. At the end of the day, they were facilitators, like knowing what I know now and working with youth education. But I remember thinking, I want to be them one day. If I could spend my whole, like my time, I would want to spend my time like that.
Wow. So this is fascinating. Because what you've just described there is my way and how I got into L&D, which is insane. So when I was writing my book, The Insightful Innovator, I was a bit right at the front where I was like, who's going to write my foreword? Who's the person who I want to write it? Like, I could have gone out to any big name, right? Any big, huge name, which would have got lots of people to buy the book. But the only name what I came coming back to was Sakib. And he was a person who got me into L&D. He was my facilitator. He was the person who, when I joined a company, he was like, no, there's alternative ways to do things. And actually look through the lens of it this way and that way and this way. And it was fascinating because in the end, he was the only person I ever really wanted to do it. Like I wanted to do my forward for me. And I think with a good facilitator, with a good trainer, whatever you want to call it, they give you more than just being good at and inspiring. They make you a little bit more of a better person as well, I think.
Something clicks, and sometimes you're not aware of that click till years later. Because I realized, like, it wasn't a major shift back then. I was like, yeah, I love it. I was inside, but I still went back to school and learning. And at the end of the day, I really picked my career, not because let's just say in that moment, it didn't really define all the choices that I was about to take. But looking back, I did gravitate a lot towards students' organizations, towards NGOs, towards going to summer schools and like putting myself in those youth organizations and non-NGO alternative learnings because I was enjoying it so much. And I get that somewhere, even unconsciously, it was like, that's good for you. Yes, it might feel messy and it's weird and you're out of comfort zone and, it's not structured and all that, but it's good for you. Like you like that mess. So it's a very vivid memory. But so is leaving, Romania for Germany and actually living there, like my first night there. It's a very vivid memory, or like going to my first work or, like all of those things, they're very impregnated in my brain.
What's the first thing you recall when you think about that first, like you say, the first time maybe going your first night there? Even now, when you recall that, what comes to mind?
Two things. First, a big feeling of overwhelm. I guess that's the word that would encompass it all, with fears and etc. I cried on my first day in Germany. Like, I sat in the room and I was like, I can't. I started the day very optimistic. I went out and it's like, oh, I'm going out to buy bread. And then you go out of the door and you're like, I could go left or I could go right because it doesn't matter because I don't know where the bread is. So it's like, whatever, I'm just going to. And that was 10 years ago, I mean, I had a smartphone, but I didn't have internet on my like it wasn't affordable. So, those things. And I was like, oh, what a sense of adventure. And then I found the bread and everything came back and I sat in my room and then I was like, damn, I really, like, what am I doing here? Like, this is hard. I recall that the internet wasn't working. I really wanted to talk to my mom and the internet wasn't working. And that was the thing. Like, I simply broke down in tears, and I was like the simply ugly, I want my mom, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? Followed by an immense, just knowing in my bones that I will be fine. So two things. I feel very overwhelmed and I'm scared and I don't know what this is. But at the same time, a certainty that stick to it, you are going to figure this out. Followed later by a big feeling of pride when I saw that I wasn't only able to survive it, I was able to actually thrive and find my place and add value and make my voice count, and to work alongside, people that went to school in Germany and they grew up there, and feel equally capable to do the work. That was awesome. A great confidence boost into, yeah. And it really helped me then be like, I can do hard things. Even if I don't have to, I can say yes to stuff that I've never done before, not knowing how to go there, because I know that I have internal resources and I'm able to figure it out as I go. And that was such an important lesson, that being just in my comfort area at home, speaking my language in Romania where everything's familiar, I didn't have that, right? So I really had to fully immerse myself into a completely different environment to prove myself, or to prove myself. It wasn't even that. It was more like test, like whether I wanted to or not. It was a big test that I kind of overcame, or like passed with flying colors if you want. So that was like, Anamaria, good girl. Good for you. Yeah.
It's fascinating, right? Because I've consulted, designed, built for a lot of big, well-known name companies now across the world, and I've been to many different countries when consulting. And it's funny when I go over there, I still get that little bit of, I don't know this place, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be going home in a week, or I'm going to be going home in 2 weeks, and I'm about to leave the UK for a year, actually in December, and I'm going to be going over to Dubai for a year.
Wow.
And it's funny, even at my ripe age of 40 now, I'm still nervous, right? I'm nervous, and I'm like, why? I know, trust me, I've been through a lot of things. I'm pretty cool with this, but even then, it's still in the back of your mind, like, where do I go to get the bread? Like, is it left? Is it right? Who knows? I don't think you ever lose that. I think it's a double-edged sword, because it's the one thing what makes you scared, but then it's the one thing what gives you excitement and adventure. And it's like, it's weighing it up.
I think when you're really doing something really out of your comfort zone, and several elements are out of your comfort zone, because it's not just like in my case, I moved country, the language was different, the city was different, the way of living was different, my job was different. I had to suddenly work in German. I'm like, it's one thing to learn German in school here and there, and then it's another thing to answer emails in German. So everything was out of comfort zone. So that was really like baptism through fire. And I was scared, and it's true, I don't lose that fear facing new challenges, even if there are new projects or things that I haven't done before. The thing that's different right now is this confidence that back then I didn't knew that I can create a map or the map, right? You're in fully new territory. You're like, I don't know how it is from above. I don't know where I'm going. I could take so many different paths. But then you go and you learn what you need to learn the territory, and how you can pivot and can adapt and adjust. And those are skills that stay with you. So next time you're faced with something new, you're like, yeah, this scares me because it's new and I haven't walked this path before. But wait a minute, I actually do know how to now assess and write the map of this thing I'm about to immerse myself in. So then the fear is there, but I guess that's where I mean this kind of trusting your inner resources. Like, I know how to handle unknown. No, I'm afraid of it, but at the same time, I know this feeling I know how to deal with it. Strategies and just mindsets, if you like.
Yeah. It's ultimately knowing yourself more, right? It comes full circle back to. What's made you smile today?
So, what made me smile today? Catching me off guard, ain't that? So here's the thing that several things. I'm pretty smiley. I think you can tell that. I can be easily entertained. I loved the I had a mentoring call, 2 mentoring calls actually today. And one of them went really well, but the second one I felt that maybe we didn't start it like with a very clear intention, etc. So I was like, I'm not sure, is she getting what she needs? Is she getting the support? So I felt a bit like that explorer, like the writing the maps, like where is this going? What does she need? What's the support that she needs? And we somehow managed together in between the two of us to kind of make sense and land on the core of what was important to her, which was totally different than the initial question we opened the call with. Okay. And we were able together to make that switch into that and actually brainstorm some. So when I saw her pick a pen and paper and frantically take notes and be like, I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. We're doing it. We're riding the wave. She's taking stuff out of it. She's taking notes. And so we finished on a very high note on, thank you, this was very useful. So I thought like, I'm so happy that, we made the best out of that hour spent together. So that's one thing. But you know what? Fresh flowers, they make my day. They make me smile every single day. Fresh flowers, it's my thing. And coffee, that's my morning kick. Coffee and smelling the flowers. So that made me smile as well.
Winner. So I asked so this is obviously season 3, and I'm trying to do things a little bit different with season 3. I don't know if this is going to be the final season. I've got an idea for a different podcast I want to do, but anyway. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to roll a dice, right? So pick a number between 1 and 12, and that number is aligned to one of my killer questions, okay? And I'll ask you the question, and then I'll come back a little bit later on for the answer. Okay. So pick a number between 1 and 12.
1 and 12. I'm going to pick 11.
11. Ooh. Don't think this one has had... I think you may be the first person who's picked this number.
Oh my God, I'm scared. Don't say that.
Yeah, no, this is good. Okay, so the question you picked is, if you had a time machine, which mistake would you go back to and resolve? Okay.
It's the worst question.
It's one of the harder ones for sure.
I want the one with the islands. Which number is that one?
Yeah, that's gone now. But we can make that up at the end. By all means, we can do that. So I'm going to come back to you for that answer a little bit later on. But I guess just speaking to you then, it sounds like there's a lot listening to you talk around kind of connection. And what I mean by connection, I don't necessarily just mean connection in people. I mean connection in thoughts and connections in emotions. And, you've kind of already started talking about your adventures to Barcelona, and you're in Amsterdam now currently. And throughout that whole time, you're always making connections and threads and connecting threads. But I guess I want to get us into the work. Let's say the work you, which is bizarre that there's like 2 sides to it because it's just you. But would you call yourself an L&D'er or would you call yourself a community builder?
I'm still at the stage where I'm both. So
Okay.
nowadays I call myself a learning experience designer, facilitator, and community builder, community designer.
Okay.
So somewhere both. I really feel that I'm at the overlap of the two at the moment. Quite frankly, I was just L&D, and there are definitely parts of L&D that don't really align with my strengths. And then I discovered community and facilitation. I was like, oh yes, I really like that part of learning, the part of this, the bringing people together, involving them, the co-design, the co-creation, learning from each other, all the peer learning and social learning opportunities that you have there. So the messiness of it, the not knowing of it, that really gets me going. So I think I'm in the middle, I guess.
Okay. It's actually scary how much of our journeys are the same. It's actually freaking me out a little bit. But anyway, so let's just say you're in the middle.
Are
I mean,
you just Anamaria in male form?
yeah, this
Is
is it.
that it?
It's just odd. It's so odd. So obviously, I'm not in L&D anymore. I haven't been in it since probably 2019ish. But that was me. I built communities. I did learn experience design, and it's like, wow. So I guess the fascinating bit is when I created Mindchimp, I created a Mindchimp community, and at the time we ended up using WhatsApp. Right? It was like, okay, we'll just use this because everyone knows how to use it and whatever else. And then it was fascinating the tipping point. There's a tipping point of communities where it goes really big. And I guess I want to needle into the community side of things because I've got my take on what community is and whatever else. But you've done it really well. You've done it really well in the fact that you've got your L&D shakers, you've got the communities with butter and stuff. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the community and the community builder side of things. One of the things which I notice a lot with communities and what I've found in the community what I set up, it's self-running now. I don't get involved too much. They just crack on. Is noise. It can become really noisy, really quick. How do you overcome that with a community? Because obviously you've juggled different communities of different sizes. How do you overcome the noise of a community?
Yeah. Well, it really depends what is noise. Like, what do you understand through that? I can imagine what you mean by that, and I think I have definitely my own definition of noise. So several things that I've been doing to try to avoid that is to have the first thing that community can do is to have that very clearly defined who and why. For whom is this? For whom is this not? And why do we gather? What's going to happen here? Like, what's the purpose of us coming together? And then I guess from the marrying the who and the why, you end up landing on the what are we doing here? And that's the part of the action of the community, right? The other two are pretty kind of set in stone, let's just say. Very rarely they change, the who and the why. Like, we're a community for L&D professionals globally, and then we meet to connect and share best practices and not having to reinvent the wheel, right? That stays there forever, and then the what kind of constantly changes. So in that what is where that noise might appear. But who creates the noise, right? Or why is the noise created? It's either if people that for whom your community is not built end up in the community, so it's not designed for them. So then the way they interact or the posts they're sharing or the questions they're sharing are irrelevant to the purpose, for example. And for us, we really look at people. So we manually approve every single person that joins the community. And we look at their profile, like, are they working and learning? And working and learning, it can be within a company, so an L&D in a department, L&D department, or you can be a freelancer, like running your own business, or you can even be an edtech CEO founder, like you own a learning product. So we play well with everyone. Everyone's invited in. We value that diversity and the expertise that these different people are bringing to the table. But at the same time, we have this guardrails around that in forms of rules of engagement, what is allowed and not allowed to be shared here. And we make those very clear in every single welcome message that goes out to every single person, individual. Like, we actually send those messages out to these people, and we make sure that they know what it is. And then we moderate. So we're both in LinkedIn and in Slack. Slack, it's different because you can't, posts are not approved, and it's the same with WhatsApp. I assume people were just sharing things and you couldn't see them afterwards, right? And at best you can delete them, right? Or ask them to be deleted. On LinkedIn it's different. We manually approve each post, and if we think that this is irrelevant, this is self-promotion, this is look at me, this doesn't invite a conversation, it doesn't get shared in the community. As simple as that. And we tell people that in the guidelines. Second of all, it's good compartmentalizing. So spaces that have different purposes. So we make sure that whatever it is you're posting, it lands in the right channel. And some channels are default and others are opt-in.
Yeah.
So if we think about noise, all of these, here's an article that I wrote, here's a podcast that I recorded with Danny, here is me, speaking at a conference on Friday, here's like all the self-promotion thing, the just look at me kind of situation, using community as a platform to, I don't know, make yourself known or build a personal brand or whatever. We actually created a container for that. So in Slack, we have a channel which is called Promote Your Services. We have a channel which is called Proud Me. And we have a channel which is called External Trainings and Courses. So if it's a paid product, you know where to post it. If it's I love talking with Danny and listen to Inner Talk conversation, it doesn't go in the resource channel. It goes in the Proud Me channel. In the resource channel, I can share your conversation with another guest and say, I just listened to this talk. It's amazing. Here are my 3 takeaways. This is the resource for y'all. Listen in. Everything that's my work goes into the Proud Me channel, and people can opt out of that channel. If I don't want to see your Proud You moments, I'm opting out. Yeah. So those are kind of a couple of, I don't know, strategies or tools that we have put in place to ensure, and then just being there. And very often people do misplace things, and then it's a matter of, hey, Anamaria, this belongs in this channel. Could you please move it there and remove it? Just like, yeah.
It's fascinating. So I set Mindjump up in 2015. And like, it's not a thing now. It's still WhatsApp community, but I don't advertise it. I don't open it up. It's just, it's ticking over with the original people who was in there. And the lessons that you just shared there, I had to learn the hard way, right? Because I never set up a community. So it's 2015. I was like, feels like I feel like I need to give power to the shy voice. That's the reason what Mindship came from. It was like there was lots of so-called thought leaders at this top rung, and everyone was like liking each other's post, and it was like this bubble. I was like, oh, but there's someone down here, maybe someone who's just come into L&D who's actually really fresh and hungry and has great ideas, and is getting pushed down. And that was the reason why I ended up creating Mindship. That was where it came from. But I remember I created a group. And a few things happened. A few memories step out to me. One, they was initially, this was right at the start, people coming in to sell. Like, we had vendors come in to try and sell their platforms. Like, nope, that doesn't work. So I was like, right, that needs to be a rule. The second one was we had someone come in and was like slagging someone else off who wasn't in a group. I was like, nope. Rule number 2. So it was over time these rules started to form and kind of bubble out. But I always remember one point where we had someone come in the group and they went, I think they must have been drinking or having a good night at weekend or whatever, and they thought, you know what, I'll chat in the Mindship group for some bizarre reason. And yeah, they went to town, and it was really hard work juggling that, because I'm a firm believer that your communities need to be consumer grade experiences, because if you bring in a platform what nobody knows how to use and you need to give them a big instruction manual to use it, your community will fall over quite quick. And that's why WhatsApp works. Everyone knew how to use it, but it also meant everyone knew how to use it when they was drunk, and everyone knew how to use it when he was just like dancing in a club and taking. It was a really fun experience to set it up. But I guess the bit what you mentioned there, that kind of moderation, is really key to a good community, I guess. And what's been like the biggest in whichever community you want to talk about? Like, what's been the biggest lessons you've learned from setting up communities?
Oh man, so many. Where do I even start? Um, I've learned a lot, both professionally, of course, but also personally. It really changed me in so many ways. I was coming from and I have to laugh because when I attended my very first facilitation master, I attended master class. I had no idea what facilitation was, and then I'm going to do a bit of a a bit of a workaround now to answer your question, but I'm getting there. I promise. It's going to be fast. And I recall in that master class where I had no idea what facilitation was, it was really hands on, and one of the other participants told me, Anamaria, you are a manager. You're not a facilitator. You're like a dictator. Like you impose.
Wow.
And you can't be like that as a facilitator. You need to hold the space. And I was like, wow, whatever that means. And then I took that feedback. I have to say that it really impacted me in a way, because I was like, phew, it's like middle of the day. And I'm like, that's a heavy feedback to digest. But I was a manager. That's what I've learned being in corporate and working as an HRBP and having a big team distributed and working retail and working in a Spanish company that was really established and very like typically Spanish and so on. We were, this leading with an iron fist. Like that's what I saw. That was the example. So it was like chew, 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 efficiency, like go there. And then you land in communities and it's the opposite of that. Like that does not work at all. So I really learned this important lessons like kill your darlings, and how to do that without suffering too much, and how to keep an open mind and truly inviting other people's opinions inside the conversation. Because for me, I didn't know that I was building a community. I didn't know that I was building a global community. That's not what L&D Shakers was set out to be. It was meant to be a small group, working group that was meeting once a month in Amsterdam in one of our offices to sit with our laptops around the table and talk about our projects. That was it. 7 people, 10 people at most. So then I found myself kind of COVID, and then people started joining and we started meeting online. I was like, wow, this is something else. I like it, but I don't know what this is. And it was, I don't know how, I wasn't wise or anything. Like I can't say that I went out and I researched and I learned. And so I asked the other community builders how they're doing. Nothing like that. I think in my case was just a big luck or intuition. I don't know what it was, but from the get-go, I kept on telling people, I do not want to lead this. Because I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't want to have the responsibility on my shoulders. Yeah, I started this, but I want to be part of it. Like, want to be at the same level with everyone else. I don't want to be somewhere on top. And I guess that as initiator, very often people will be around the table, we would talk about stuff, and they would turn towards you. I was like, oh, Anamaria, what do you think? Or what should we decide? Or what should we do? And I recall at the beginning, I had to constantly say, like, I don't know. I don't want to take this decision. We should take it together. Like literally verbalizing, like, I do not want to take that decision for the group. Let's take it together. And that was a big lesson. And also trusting people. I know that sounds really like, I wasn't trusting people very much. And I don't mean that, I don't want this to sound kind of like, it's not because I thought that I'm better than anyone else, but I was like, okay, I can't manage these people because they're not my team. And so because I can't manage them, how will I know if the job gets done properly? And that properly is obviously my interpretation of that, right? So then I was like, okay, then I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to do it myself. And then suddenly you become this bottleneck of things, right? And I was like, oh, I'm the bottleneck now. I have 7 projects lying here. People like me message, are we doing this? What's happening, Anamaria? And I'm like, okay, this can't go on like that. So then you learn like, oh, let's distribute. But to distribute, you need to trust people. You need to allow them to, let go of a project and let that project come to life in the vision that they have, which is different than yours. But then I started asking myself and looking at the projects and what was being produced as artifacts and value, and looking and being, is this meeting the purpose? Like, is it hitting the purpose? Is it doing what it's supposed to be doing? It is. Okay. Then if I would have taken this path or this other path to get to the exact same thing, the same purpose, that does not matter. As long as someone takes a different path, but the outcome and the value is the same, it doesn't matter if it's how I would have done it or how I like it. It brings the impact that it's supposed to be bringing. So see these types of things that I have to say, like, my corporate job hasn't taught me that.
Yeah, it doesn't know. It's whenever I'm workshopping, so like my world now is like people experience, employee experience, and innovation. So I find myself in workshops a lot, and the first thing I tend to do right from the get go is go, right, what is your bias to this project, to the people in this project, and what's going on? And I make them write it out. I'm like, let's have some medicine really quick. And the amount of times I've been in a financial services and they've gone, you are white, male, boring, stale. And I'm like, good, we can have this conversation now before we crack on over here. And but one of the hardest things is solution seduction. We get so wrapped up in our solution, the thing what we think is the right thing in our mind, that we it stops us from seeing all the other opportunities. So yeah, I completely hear you. And I think, you don't necessarily get taught that. Like, that is just it usually comes from feedback. That learning comes from someone's just giving me some really valuable, and it probably feels a little bit prickly at first, like feedback, but it's so valuable, so valuable.
I learned that through feedback. I've told the story in several other podcasts or whatever, because someone actually came to me and said, you can't give me a project and tell me this beautiful story that it's make it your own and run with it and all that, and then come back and say, oh no, this should be blue, this should be to the left, this should be to the right. It's like, either you let me do it, or if not, you do it. But you can't have both. Very candidly, really nicely delivered. And I was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Take it away. Don't mind me. Take it away. I'll just zip it.
Go.
So someone had to actually come and tell me that.
And kudos to them, right? Like, I think half the problem is giving the feedback. That's half the challenge. Is like, I've got to go and give someone this feedback now. So when I think about communities, I think about it. I see it in two, well, to my eye, clear lenses: fast burn and slow burn communities. That's how I separate communities. So you have a fast burn, which is like your WhatsApp, ping, 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 ping. Like, I've got a question, help, give me, and it's really fast burn. It's really fast, and before you know it, the thing has disappeared and there's something else coming up. And then you have your slow burn communities, which is more like your forum kind of approach, where there's a question and then there's lots of builds, like typical like a Facebook. And I guess when I think about communities, I think they go through some kind of key stages. You've got it's a bit like a dandelion, right? Like, I think we talked about this, I think, in the past, but like, it goes through germination, it goes through growth, it blooms like a flower, and then eventually it kind of disperses, and they go up and to create their own little splinter communities. And I think that's part of a healthy community for me. But I know some people who've set up communities get really paranoid by that final stage. It's like, my community is disappearing. I'm like, no, that's good. As long as they're not all disappearing because you go, this community is full of racist people or whatever. Like, as long as they're in the good way. But have you seen that in your communities? Have you seen like little ripples and little shoots of different communities coming up?
So two things that come to mind. On one hand, yes, when you say the community is disappearing, it's people are moving on. That's okay. People come and move on, but new people are joining as well. So I have not seen this community diluting or seeing less activity or less people joining events because we're constantly also having new people and people are taking new roles and so on. So it's more of they evolve, and sometimes, we combine it with our lives, like we combine it with our jobs and our families and our lives, and sometimes we can dedicate the time and energy. It requires a lot to be there, to answer those messages, to attend events, to host, like to nurture that, and not only as a core team but even as an active member. Like, you have to give things, you have to give stuff very valuable, like attention and time and energy. And life happens, and you're not always able to do that. So then it's okay to move in between. Like I give, and then I take, and then I observe, and then maybe eventually I come back after half a year, and I'm like, I was away for half a year, but now I'm back with fresh perspective or a cool new project or whatever. So the community is still there. In terms of this other part of community, like kind of dispersing because different people are doing different things. We're not there yet with the butter community, although the events, for example, I like to work with core teams. I like to work in a distributed way because I believe that a big part of the communities is a value of being a member in a community is to have the space and the permission and the allowance and the encouragement and the support to use that platform if you want to, and that's your, that's what excites you, to make it your own. So in butter, we also have people that are leading events. I don't even have to be there. They plan, they do the dry runs, and then they co-host. It's their event, right? So the same in L&D Shakers, we have that. If everything is, our core team is over 40 people. So, and it started very early on. I think in the first year, in the first 6 months, we started this dividing and conquering mindset, because we were like, we want to do so many things, but this is no one's job. No one is getting paid to do this. This is all voluntary work that comes on top of everything else. And so we need to divide and conquer, because otherwise we're not going to do anything. But we do want to do cool stuff. So then what's the solution? The solution is to have people run with different pieces at the same time and trust them and have them run with that project. So every event is managed by someone. And then we have, after COVID passed, we started having this concept of local hubs.
Yeah.
People meeting in big cities where there's more shakers, and they're led by someone. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a group of 3 people. And so now we have local hubs around different cities, and that's their community. I'm never there. It's this blind trust that they understand what L&D Shakers is, that what that space is, and they can hold that space, and they can represent, and they can nurture it in the same way we nurture it online with the same principles, but it's their community.
Yeah.
Those people probably never know who I am or will never attend an online event. So we don't have a problem with that. I'm like, make it your own. You know what? Abundance mindset, make it your own. The community is there to empower, enable, and support L&Ds. That's it. If only I can do only as much as an individual person. If 40 people can do the same work that I do, whoa. If 50 people can, like, even better. The bigger, the better. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we also have one other thing, just to, sorry to interrupt, is this, we have this concept of learning clusters. Okay. So we have different event formats, and sometimes we encourage folks to raise a hand and say, I want to host something. I have an idea that I want to test. And based on what that is, at times it was a moment where we noticed that it wasn't fitting in any of the predefined formats. So then we came up with this ideas of a learning cluster, fully members led. We support you to put it out there, and it can take any shape or form, sync, async, one time, recurrent. It doesn't matter. You define that learning experience. There's only one condition. You lead it. It's yours. So now we have an instructional design learning cluster that someone leads, and she's managing that how she wants to. And then we have a parenting learning cluster for parents, and they're doing amazing. And so it's like, yeah, man, like, this is our platform. It's ours. So I love to see that, because that empowers people. Like, it changed my life. I want this platform and this community to change and have the same impact and transformation in other people's lives. I want that for others.
And it's, again, our crossroads. So I think there's something there, right? There's something around leading with good intention. Like, the L&D Shakers clearly is you leading with good intention. Mindchimp was built on good intention. And there's something around that. I think what I found over time when I was with the Mindchimp one was there was always some bad apples. And it's fascinating. I can track this bad. So obviously because Mindchimp back in the day was quite a good active community, people tend to bounce between communities.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go into one community, someone will message me and go, "Did you ever have this person in your community?" I'm like, yeah, I did. And it's like, "What was he like?" And I was like, "Well, there's a couple of occurrences based on facts." It's like, they've just shown up like that in my community. And I'm like, interesting. So it's a fascinating one because a couple of bad apples can kind of tip a community really one way or another way. But the biggest, while that is like the downside of a community, what I found, the biggest upside is what I call it breaking a fourth wall, which you just perfectly described, which is bring everyone together in real life. Like, I think for me, when I only did it 2 or 3 times, but that was that moment where I went, okay, this feels special. This feels quite nice. And I find it really hard to summarize that feeling unless you've done it. Like, you'll know that feeling, you've done it. But it's something where you go, job done. Like, it felt like
feels
that.
right.
Yeah.
It feels like something clicks into place and you're like, now I know what I'm doing. Like, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, definitely. It does. And I think it's a real testament to you and to the community, the people who are doing roles in there, because like you mentioned, it's not an easy thing to do. It's when it's done voluntary. I remember there was times when I was like, not stressed, but 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, oh, someone's just said this, and it's like, and it can become a lot really quick, and it's easy for you to just go, right, I'm done with this now. I'm kind of, it's taking its toll on me in my personal life, because it does. It takes its toll. Like, all right, it did with me anyway. It kind of like, I felt like I was always working one way or another.
Yes.
Um,
you're never off. That's true.
Yeah, you never.
Like,
Yeah,
you constantly have an eye on that, because it is never off. It's not like work and then now it's 6 and we all go home and then nothing happens till tomorrow at 9. Like, it's around the clock, because people in the States are waking up and they're chatting and they're like, yeah, it is hard work, and I sometimes see people venturing this path, and I am all for it. I'm saying, man, communities, if something's going to change this wicked world, it's going to be communities and groups of people and movements, right? So I'm like, hell yeah, like, go for it. You want to start a community, go for it. But I always tell people, are you aware of the work? And not only the work that you put in, the energy you put in, because often it's just this, you're constantly giving, and you're taking so much back, no doubt, but it's just this, you're working with people all the time, and you give and you think and you so I constantly tell people, are you aware of that? Are you aware of that? And also, why are you doing it? Because if it's for some sort of profit or something, you will very quickly realize that it's not paying off and you started it for nothing.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. That a lot of people want to create a community to build money off the community. And for me, I don't think that's the right thing. I think if you've got to charge a fee for a community to get onto a platform, then that's different. But to charge someone to be in part of a community and then use it as like this cow what you constantly milk for more and more money, it feels like it's a shady game. Yet I've seen lots and lots of communities go that way. So it's like, but it goes back to that thing of the intention of why you built it in the first place, I think, you know.
I mean, yes, for sure. And it is hard work. Like, I'm not going to, we had this conversation many times with our core team. Many times people are joining the core team, and after 6 months and 8 months, they all join with motivation. We all have our motivation. Some want to learn by doing and expose themselves. Other people want to build their network, thought leadership, whatever it is, right? We all start to engage and be core team members for different reasons. And after 6 months, 8 months, you're like, okay, I took what I wanted to, and this is hard work. What is next? Could I get paid for this in order for me to keep on giving? And we had this conversation, I think, in the past 4 years. L&D Shakers, it's for about 3 times.
Okay.
Different stages, 3 times we had that conversation, and we really tried to map and what is pay. Like, we really, and it wasn't flying. Like, it didn't, I can't really explain. Like, my body had a physical reaction to it. Like, this can't, like, just no. And after the 3rd time that we open up that and kind of explored and mirror board and let's map it out, and I was like, no, man, it's never going to be a paid thing. Not L&D Shakers, not what it is right now. That it was not meant for that. It was not built for this. I'm not seeing it. But I do have some interesting plans for it, maybe for next year to explore. Because I keep on thinking, like, what is next? Not for the community. The community will thrive with or without me. I'm sure of that. It's more like for me, like, I took so much out of it. And in the first year, I took something. In the second, something else. In the third, like, it changed my role and what I've done with it and inside it for different reasons. So I took so much, and I'm like, oh, like, what is next for me? You know, what else can I do here? I always looked at it as a playground. I've always done the things that I couldn't do at work. I always done my learning by doing, my let's launch something, let's experiment with something. So now I'm like, I've done pretty much, I worked through my whole wish list for this space. What's next?
Well, that's a very good question, because that was going to be the question what I asked you. So for me, it was community, podcast, events. That's kind of how it went. Naturally, it progressed that way. And then I had this other idea, what I wanted to do. And this other idea was, this sounds even insane that I'm saying it now, but it was like, it was good. And we talked about do lectures, right? Like, we talked about do this and stuff like that. And I was like, actually, wouldn't it be good if you created like you got a hotel in the middle of nowhere and you turned it into this big offsite for like 2 or 3 days? That was where I wanted to go next. And then I was like, no, Daniel, because it's just you doing all this, and that's a lot of effort. And yeah, you've got other things you need to get done. But I guess, what is next for maybe not L&D Shakers as such, but for you? Like, what do you do next? Because everything you touch seems to be really well. Butter, shakers, like what's next for you? Maybe a podcast? Is that on the cards? Maybe. What do you think?
Oh, there are certain projects brewing. Now, starting October, I work part-time for Butter, and I work the rest of the time for myself, for my own business. And that is a whole different ball game.
Okay.
That's like, I'm discovering things and learning, and it's wild and very exciting, because I'm like, oh, there's clients and there's projects and I have to price them and like,
Yes.
So suddenly, like, I've been doing this for the past 2 years for very specific projects, people in my close network that kind of already knew me, and I felt very fortunate because projects came my way. When you do work with communities, you're constantly surrounded by people. You give, people see you in action, and then suddenly they have a problem or a challenge, and they think, oh, that's a challenge for Anamaria. And so that's kind of how I started this path of consulting or freelancing. People came to me with specific projects and said, I need you on board with this project. Like, I didn't have to sell it. I didn't have to, like, people wanted to bring me on board for projects because they already saw me doing that work. And it was mainly community, internal communities. workshops and resources and all that. So that's kind of how I started down that path. And for me, it was always like just to play, because I was doing like, butter was my full-time job, and then Shakers taking, of course, like every minute of the rest of the days. And then on top of that, weekends and evenings and so on was my business, with a tiny project here and this, and like, oh, I'm earning money and I'm writing an invoice, and so exciting. And then this year I really felt the need to make more space for it. And that's what I did. February, I stole a day a week for my business, and I launched my no course. So I have a product, if you like. It's a cohort-based program for 2 weeks. We're running on the second cohort. It's amazing. I love it because it's everything that I imagine it to be and more.
Okay.
I had this concept of a no course on my brain for 2 years. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know, like, it was a feeling. It came to me and I was like, that's a learning experience. And then time has passed and it materializes in this no course. It's a 12-week cohort-based experience, small groups, a melange of workshops and peer coaching, like intervision, and then case studies from guests or professionals, practitioners. So it's beautiful. So I have that on my plate, and I don't know. We will definitely do a podcast. I'm experimenting now with Sophie August. She was in my first no course cohort, she's building communities at Baker Hughes. That's her full-time job inside the company.
Wow.
Like, how awesome is that? That these roles are starting to pop up within companies full-time, not as an afterthought. And we're hosting now a series of 7 LinkedIn audio events where we brought practitioners to talk about their work as internal community builders. Probably you know from experience, if you go out there to try to research and learn more about communities, you will stumble upon many resources aimed for product communities, user community, like externally facing for your clients, for your user, for your customers. Building internally, it's different. Challenges are different. Everything's different. And we were like, as people coming from L&D, and we were like really believing in the impact of communities of practice within, it's like, where do we learn more about this? It's like so scarce. And so we set out to bring these people forward, and we're finding them, and we're having lots of fun. We recorded 3 so far, 4 to go, and most likely that's going to be the beginning of a podcast. It's called Mapping Ties, and
Nice.
it's stories about togetherness at work, surfacing these types of best practices on building communities internally. So yeah, a couple of things. Then I mentioned the newsletter, I don't know. Let's just put it like that, Danny. I don't have a lack of ideas.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. I have a big list of stuff I would like to experiment and do. I just have to be really mindful and strategic about how I spend my time. Because entrepreneurship, the rules are very different than you working somewhere and knowing that, that's your work time and that's your salary, and then at the end of the month, and it's different. I mean, you know that, but yeah, for me, I'm like in that moment of like, oh, whoa, hello, it's hard.
It's really hard.
So
it's really hard. It's I was chatting to Adam Howard. I'm not sure if you know him. Top guy on LinkedIn. Definitely connect with him if not. I was chatting with him yesterday actually, and he said to me, "How have you managed to do a newsletter, a podcast, a book in the space of a year, and you've got the community still going on, but it's like whoever is in there and whatever else?" I'm like, honestly, mate, I have no life. I was like, you don't see that. You don't see it because I don't shout about it. But it's such it's hard to carve time out for you, right? Have you found that? I guess
that's it. I get asked that question a lot. Like, you asked me that when we first jumped on a call today. oh, you seem very busy. Like, how do you do that? And I get that question so often. And I just put on a lot of time and work, and I'm at it now for 4 years. It's just getting harder and harder. And I sometimes feel, and I have ideas and I get so much energy. Like, that's the problem. I get energy from this work. I give energy, but I gain energy as well. I have to be so careful because it's such a slippery slope. It's so easy for me to say yes to projects, to say yes to things. Nothing scares me, like nothing scares me. There's literally not one thing that someone will throw my way where I would be like, that's scary. I don't want to do that. It's rather, interesting. I've never done that. So I bet that I can definitely learn how to do that, I don't know what's that phrase from Pippi Langstrom, or however that famous quote that she has. But it's hard because after a certain age, you're looking at your life. For me, at least, I'm like, I want to carve out time for hobbies. I want to carve out time for arts. I want to carve out time for nature, for being bored.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is to be bored. I'm never bored. Are you bored? I'm never bored. Like, it's so foreign, and I used to be bored, and it's a good feeling because ideas come and I feel that when I'm less rested, when I'm more stressed, when I'm more in the doing, when there's no time to breathe and there's no mental space, I feel the quality of my work decreasing, and I don't want that. So there's a purpose now in, yes, I want to do things and I want to explore and learn and grow and hopefully add some value for others along the way if I can. But I also want to create space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't know your age, and please you don't need to tell me your age. But, at my age, I'm 40 now, and I look back and I go, so I've been doing, it started at 2014, 15, right? So I've been doing it for a while now. And I look back, I'm like, wow, I've missed a lot. I have missed a lot. Like, you do miss a lot. You give a lot. And I'm at the point now where I'm deciding whether I even want to continue on LinkedIn. I'm like, do I want to do that now? Like, it takes my time and it's this. And I'm just like, actually, I just want to be bored. I want to just be like, okay, just stop, have a bit. And there's times where I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take a month off. But then you find this hustle culture of like, you've got to be online, you've got to be seen, you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that. And I'm like, what's it worth? Like, great, you might get 10 subscribers, or you might get another 2 people joining, or 5 people joining a community. But when you strip it all right back and you sit back at the end of your week or your month or your year and you go, well, my work's really great, but what have I given up for that? What have I lost because of it? And sometimes you can't see it until it's a little bit too later on.
Yeah. I am soon to be 37, by the way. So just a couple of years behind you.
Okay.
I hear you loud and clear. And yes, like, I'm not going to reiterate or just repeat what you said. But one thing when you talk about that, one thing that I've started doing for my own sake is to capture, save messages, notes, conversations, moments, because sometimes it does feel imposter syndrome is real, and sometimes I have these moments where I look at everything and I question everything, myself, my work, everything, all the decisions that I ever made, and I feel that it's pointless and what am I even doing and no one cares and all that, and it's dreadful to be in that moment. And I learned that for my sake, when you are a doer and a giver and a starter and a curious mind, I don't think we'll ever change, to be honest. I do not think we'll ever change, and I don't know whether we're ready to. Maybe eventually you will decide, or we will decide to change. But I actually had friends and my coaches say, like, that's just who you are, and it's true that this is who I am. But at the same time, I don't want things to be pointless or in vain. Like
Yeah.
I want if I do bring in that put in the work and the hours and the energy and the creativity and everything I've got, I want to see some traces, like I want to be like, is it making any difference at all in this world? And so that's when I started creating this smile folder, and I go back to it so often, you have no idea. Because if you're starting to think about that, you will see that it matters, because people will thank you for a podcast episode, for a post you shared, for an insight you gave, for a chat you had, for whatever. And it happens to me as well that I get these messages back, and somehow you're like, oh, that's nice, well, and I'm like, no, that's not, like, that is it. This is it. Like, it's not just nice message, of course, like, no. So now I'm like screenshot smile folder, and I look at it sometimes once a week or twice a week, and I'm like, I need some
So
love.
I see your smile folder and I raise you my memory jar. So I have a little glass jar, and every time I write a post-it note in there, like a good moment or someone says something, I put it in there. And then at the end of the year, I'll read through them. So I don't do it on a weekly, I do it on a yearly thing. But maybe I should start doing it on a weekly. That's a nice shout. That's a nice thing to do.
Okay, I'll definitely try that one next year.
Do it.
Because it's
Do
now, it's a New Year's resolution kind of thing.
it. Yeah, you heard it here first. However, speaking of decisions, don't think you're getting away from the question what you picked. So you picked a question of, if you could go back in time, what's the one thing you would resolve? So
that's a really hard one, and I get this. And it's not that I don't make mistakes. I don't have regrets, and sometimes people ask me this, or sometimes in mentoring or in just coffee chats or in podcasts like this, if you could change one thing, or what did you learn from your biggest mistake? And I'm like, I don't want to say that I'm perfect, but like, I don't really see and I'm sure there are mistakes, but they don't stick with me. If I would go back in time to resolve something, so here's something that I wish someone would have told me. And by someone, I mean an educator, or maybe a parent, or maybe a friend, or maybe someone wiser than me, or I don't know, my manager, someone. I used to, up until I moved to Amsterdam, and I started working in L&D, and I worked with a brilliant manager who was absolutely encouraging my development within and outside of the role that I was having. Up until that point, Anamaria was the person associated with the role and the company. So I wasn't a standalone professional or a standalone person. I was always Anamaria that works in this role at this company. And so I have not used my voice to share or to learn, or to learn out loud, or to put things out there. And LinkedIn, Instagram, newsletter, a podcast, whatever that is. And now whenever I talk to people that are at the beginning of their journey, I tell them, I wish I could go back in time to either build a community straight from the benches of my university. I would have built it. I would have grown in a different path for sure. Then put yourself out there. Like, I haven't really put myself out there. I felt that I wasn't encouraged to. I wasn't allowed to. I wasn't like, this idea of writing a LinkedIn article about something related to work. Like, no. I was like, oh, my manager's going to see me. I'm going to be judged. Like, I didn't feel safe to do that. And so, when I realized that was a mistake, when I wanted to move to Amsterdam and I started looking for a job, and I started applying with what I was looking at, a brilliant CV with an amazing experience. And I was leading teams and big budgets and like thousands of people. And I was doing, like, I was rocking it, like I was good at it, like no doubt. And I started applying to jobs and I wasn't even given the opportunity to introduce myself. And that was for me like, wow, it was a major wake-up call. And I told myself, I'm not going to repeat that mistake again. So the moment I switched jobs, I was very vocal about the fact that I want to go out there and I want to learn and I want to talk about my experiences. And that's why I said I was lucky to work under that manager, because if I was writing a LinkedIn article or a post, I can guarantee you the next morning he would come to work, sit at his desk and be like, hey, Anamaria, I saw your article on LinkedIn. And not only that, I also read it. And how can we apply some of those things here?
Nice.
Like absolutely encouraging. So if I would go back in time to repair something, I would start learning out loud and sharing my thoughts and just finding my voice much earlier. Because now I'm like, I'm not Anamaria. I'm Anamaria, but I'm not associated to a company. I work at Butter, but at the same time, I'm more than that.
Yeah.
And I think that people see that and they acknowledge that, and that has opened up so many different doors for me, including my path to consulting. It came to me. It wasn't a decision that I took. It found me because I put myself out there. So I would do that, and I encourage everyone I talk to do that, no matter how scary it is.
Well, it's kind of occurred to me. So I don't see you as Anna from LD Shakers, Anna from Butter. I see Anna as Anna. That's how I see you. But it kind of occurred to me just listening to kind of your story, and I'm reflecting on my story as well a little bit. I guess, how do I frame this? So when I built Mansion because everyone said I shouldn't do it. Don't build a community, no one's going to talk about it. Don't build a podcast, no one's going to want to listen to L&D podcast. Don't do that. Don't do this. And I was like, well, now you said it can't be done, I'm going to do it. And there's this kind of underdog mentality, I think, which I've always had as a child, right? It stems from dyslexia, dyspraxia in school and whatever else. Do you have that underdog mentality? Is that there? Do you see it? Or is it just a case of it's just you?
I don't think it's that in my case, to be
Okay.
honest. I think in my case, what really fuels me and kind of it's very ingrained is this growing up in the poor post-communism Romania, and kind of, I guess I love my family lives there. I'm very proud to say that I never miss an opportunity to say that I'm Romanian. I'm proud of that, actually. But to go back in time and to know where I grew up and where I was born and where I am right now, that makes me very proud. And I know that I look back and I'm like, I did that. Like I had to strategically, purposefully draw a door that I could later open to step through. So for me, I think it was that. And I don't think it was of a rebellion. I think I grew up with this. I always grew up with this awareness, I guess, that I'm starting with some minus points.
Yeah.
Compared to other people. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not a victim. There are people who are starting with many more minus points that I have. But this means that I have to work harder. So I grew up with this work hard, study, create. And I recall I always had, ever since high school, ever since general school, like the 5th grade onwards, I always had something that was considered an extracurricular activity that wasn't related to grades, that wasn't related to rewards, that wasn't related to anything else, whether that was a contest, whether that was like, I was part of the first aid contestant team of our school for 8 years. Like even in high school, we were competing, and so I always liked these doing things on the side. And for me, those side projects have always worked into my advantage. And I think I always use them as stepping stone to something else. So I don't know. It wasn't the rebellious underdog kind of thing, like, oh, you're saying it can be done, I'm showing you that it can be. It was more you just have to work harder than other people, because if you want a different life, and if you want to leave Romania or compete on the European job market, you will compete with people that were born with extra points, so you need to catch up. You have some catching up to do. So I think that was the thing that always, and it sticks with you, because those are your fine, like your early years and your childhood years. And grades matter to me, making my parents proud matter to me. Like, those were things. I was a good student, I was always a good studious, like, I loved school. So yeah.
I think there's something around your greatest weakness will be your greatest strength, and your greatest strength can also be your greatest weakness. And I think whether I use the analogy of underdogs, but similar to you, right? Like, it's that thing of I'm points behind, whether it be the fact that I can't read a book or I can't do algebra or whatever. I'm points behind. But ultimately, it is your greatest strength because it gives you that extra step ahead, that extra push. I'm aware we've been on this for an hour and a half, and we could have gone on for another hour, I'm sure. But where can people who may never have come across you, where can they follow you? Where can they stay up to date with everything you're doing? Where can they connect with you?
Yes. So because I don't have a newsletter yet,
okay,
the best place is really LinkedIn. So if you put my name, then you'll find me there. It's Anamaria Dorgo. And I don't know if anyone will listen to this podcast, hour and a half.
They will. Trust me, they will.
I hope they will.
Honestly,
I had such a great time, Danny. Like, truly, it was amazing. Let's do this again on the recording or off recording. I don't mind. I would love to keep the conversation alive and keep on learning more about you as well.
Yeah, definitely. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Chat soon. Take care.